Korea is one of Asia's wealthiest nations. In the capital Seoul, people live lives that seem to lack for nothing. But about 440 kilometers away to the south, more than 1 million South Koreans are facing a daily struggle for water. This is Dongbok Dam, one of the two main reservoirs that supplies water for about 1.8 million people in Jeolla, a South Korean province known for its pristine landscapes. But this crucial water source is drying up. A drought has ravaged the region for about 4 months now. Now, there were about 800 millimeters of rain last year, and that was only about 60% of what it got in the year before that. And now there are lots of worries that they won't even get that amount in 2023. Look at this place. This whole place should be filled with water, but it's all dried up. And so there are lots of concerns that there won't be enough water for all the residents here in Gwangju City. In the smaller towns and islands of Jeolla province, the situation is worse. These trucks are the lifeline for some 5,000 residents of Kumildo, one of the many islands surrounding Wando County in Jeolla province. Each truck has the capacity of about 15,000 liters of water. A total of 8 trucks carry water 3 times a day from Changnyeong Dam in Tamjin River, one of the 3 main rivers in the province, to Chokchi Reservoir in Kumildo, where taps have literally run dry. Residents only have access to water twice a week. Blue water tanks sticking out from the rooftops of houses are now a common sight on the island. Resident Chung Byun-jin says most houses have at least one water tank. She keeps hers at a storage room outside up the stairs. And she says she and her husband share one water tank with 2 people next door. It's usually not enough for all of them, and so she saves when she can.
물 떨어질 때를 대비해서 해놔둔 거예요. 통에 물 있잖아요. 저것이 떨어질 수도 있어요. 그렇게 떨어질 때를 해서 대비해서 이라고 싱크대 곁에다가 받아놓고 있어요. 급수 물 올 때 빨아요. 빨래를 모아놨다가.
Madam Chong says she lived to be 75, and this is the first time she has experienced a water crisis like this. Kumildo, where Madam Chong lives, is part of Wando, a rural county that produces about 1/3 of South Korea's seaweed. While the marine plants are a prized food source around the world, in South Korea's seaweed capital, they are reserved for a precious sea creature. Lim Yun Suk is the village head of Mangnam-ri in Wando. The abalone farmer, along with about 2,600 other households in the county, work in the fisheries industry. As drought persists, he's worried it could eventually hurt the abalone harvest here.
비가 좀 많이 와줘야 되는데 비가 좀 안 와서 지금 안도 실정이 좀 단수 섬 같은 데는 단수가 들어가고 좀 불편한 상황이 있습니다. 그리고 해저루 같은 데도 비가 와줘야지만이 또 영양분이 더 많이 발생을 해가지고 해저루 양식이 좋은데 지금 비가 안 오기 때문에 해저루 부분들이 좀 약간의 타격이 있습니다.
The tourism industry has already taken a direct hit from the water crisis, especially for restaurants and inns serving tourists around the islands here. Restaurant owner Nam Ki-ok says her income has drastically gone down because of the drought.
저 먹고 사는데 문제가 있는 거죠. 그렇잖아요. 쓰다가 물이 떨어지면 장사를 못 하죠. 문 닫아야죠. 지금 관광객들이 못 들어오죠. 들어와도 일반 업소 같은데 예를 들어서 숙소 같은데도 물이 적으니까 관광객을 못 받죠.
The government says without water, industrial complexes in the southern region could suffer losses to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars every day. Even though the drought situation is expected to ease once the rainy season starts around July and August, the government has been trying to come up with long-term solutions to the region's water situation. In 2018, the South Korean government began a project to bring clean water to people living on the islands scattered around Wando. It's called the Dreams. An $18 million vessel with a seawater desalination plant on it. Moving from one island to another, this vessel can deliver 300 tons of potable water every day. Because of its size, the Dream relies on a fleet of smaller boats to take desalinated water directly to the islands.
어망들이 상당히 많이 이제 주민분들이 설치를 해놓으셨어요. 일차적으로 그것 때문에 못 돌아가는 데가 많고요. 저희 배 길이가 한 70m 되는데 배를 붙일 수 있는 그런 암벽이 많이 없어요. 저희가 갈 수 있는 최대한 가까이 가서 이제 그런 소형 선박들이 나와서 물을 실어 가는 식으로밖에 안 되죠.
In 2020, Wando County and its islands attracted about 2.4 million tourists. On one of these islands, Cheongsan-do touts itself as Asia's first slow city. While slowness is celebrated here, rain must come soon, or happiness will be elusive for the residents and businesses here.
As the world's richest country, you'd think access to clean drinking water would be a given in America. But it's not. Tens of millions of people don't have safe water to drink, while more than 2 million have no running water, indoor plumbing, or flush toilets. It's a harsh reality for a lot of families here on Navajo Nation, which is the U.S.'s largest Native American reservation. Their fight for better water access has now reached the Supreme Court. But with the entire region in a 23-year mega drought, water supplies are dwindling. And it's stoking a resource war that threatens to further marginalize the most vulnerable Americans.
Tony Woody starts his mornings like most Americans. In his kitchen, preparing a piping hot pot of coffee.
I just need a little bit of boil more.
But unlike most Americans, this simple task used to require a major effort. Because up until a few months ago, Tony had no running water in his home.
I had to haul water on my own.
What was that like?
Frustrating because you need gas money, and you gotta wait in line.
And how far away was the water source?
Probably like 12 miles. The hard part was taking it off too.
Because it's heavy.
Yes, and it's heavy and not disabled.
Tony lives in Navajo Nation, a self-governing region that spans parts of the states of New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. Some 200,000 people live on the reservation, which was founded under an 1868 treaty when the U.S. said it would give a permanent home to the Navajo after forcing them off their native lands. Yet 30% of the families here live without running water in their homes. No showers, no toilets, no sink to wash their hands. Every drop of water is hauled in from communal spigots. Besides the massive inconvenience, there are major health implications. At one point, Navajo Nation had the highest infection rates in the U.S. Death became tragically common. According to health officials, the pandemic wiped more than 6 years off Indigenous people's life expectancy.
Got used to.
For Cindy Howe, the staggering loss brought renewed urgency to provide clean, reliable water to the reservation. She works for the nonprofit Dig Deep, which has installed more than 560 off-grid water systems, including Toni's. 4,500-liter tanks are dug into the ground and filled monthly, while new plumbing pumps that water in and out of the house.
Do you see these water systems as a permanent solution?
It's half and half. If they're close to a water line, then we're going to try to help them get that water line to their homes. It's going to be ongoing for a long, long time.
And climate change could put water access even further out of reach for the tribe.
It's been rainy and wet on our trip through Navajo Nation, but this type of weather is becoming exceedingly rare. The entire American Southwest is in the grips of a 23-year mega drought, and researchers say that it's the driest it's been in at least 1,200 years, with absolutely no end in sight.
The parched Colorado River, which provides water to 40 million Americans across 7 states, is now at the center of a contentious brawl over vanishing water supplies. The river's flow has dropped 20% since 2000, while its 2 main reservoirs are only about a quarter full. The government has asked the states to slash their water usage, but so far they haven't managed to reach an agreement. For 20 years, Navajo Nation has fought for access to water in the lower Colorado River, which flows along the reservation's northwestern border. The tribe says the government is obligated to provide it with water under the 1868 treaty. Heather Tanana is an assistant professor at the University of Utah Law School.
I wonder how you see the battle over the Colorado River right now between the 7 states playing into this issue of water access for Native people.
It definitely is increasing tensions. With climate change happening, everyone is wondering, where's my water going to come from? And nobody wants to give up their current rights. But the reality is that tribal nations haven't been able to fully utilize their water rights. And so what that has created is an unequal playing field and real imbalances in power.
The case has now reached the Supreme Court, which must decide how far the government's responsibilities go in ensuring water access on the reservation. Repeated requests for comment from the Department of the Interior and the Bureau of Reclamation went unfulfilled. But Ann Castle agreed to talk. She's the former Assistant Secretary for Water and Science at the Interior Department, and believes Washington now has an opportunity to correct what she has called a shameful state of affairs.
You can't have a permanent livable homeland without water. Exactly how much water that represents is unknown.
So if the government is required to provide a permanent homeland, but 30% of Navajo people are living without running water, has the government broken its promise?
Well, I think that we're in the process of fulfilling those responsibilities.
$6 billion has been set aside in the new infrastructure law to build, among other things, safe drinking water infrastructure and reliable sewerage systems in tribal communities. But experts say it will take years and continuous investment to bring water into the homes of every Navajo that wants it.
How has it changed your life, having access to water inside your home?
You know water is there instead of walking outside in the cold or in the heat. I like it. It's beautiful.
Beautiful to finally have reliable access to a life source that most Americans have taken for granted for generations.
Farming had come to a standstill in this West Nile region of Uganda. Fields have dried up with no sign of crop life. A few farmers have started preparing their gardens for the next planting season, hoping the rains this time will be significant for proper plant growth.
During rain season, this place normally be full with the water like that. And then in dry season, it dries like this. This is where we normally fetch our water for watering the crops.
Afiliam needs the peas he's planting to sprout well. In addition to selling these crops to earn an income, they are also the source of food for his family. Without rain, it could mean no income and regular food on the table for his household of 4 people. The situation is getting increasingly drier across the Horn of Africa. Millions have suffered severe crop and livestock losses as a result of the drought, which began in 2020. It's been described as the worst drought in decades, with over 23 million people acutely food insecure in Ethiopia, Somalia, and Kenya, according to the UNHCR. Africa's water crisis was highlighted at the recently concluded UN Water Conference, and experts say the biggest problem is not the lack of water.
There is actually plenty of water, but what we don't have is the energy that is needed to pump the water, to transfer the water to where it is needed.
In 2021, with the help of the UK Export Finance, the Ugandan government launched a solar-powered irrigation initiative. These solar-powered water pumps convert sunlight into the electricity needed to move water from a source like a well. The technology is touted as a climate-smart, sustainable solution to the region's water crisis and surging fuel costs. But a solar pump goes for about $2,000. Even with the government subsidies, it's out of reach for many rural farmers who earn less than $300 a season. In the case of Afiliam Abimer, the Ugandan farmer got his solar pump when the initiative was first launched in 2021. But when it broke down a year ago, he couldn't have it fixed. The spare parts are not readily available. The company that supplied them say they placed orders from the UK, but the wait is too long for Afiliam. Farmers with no access to solar pumps in this area are having to divert water from the nearby rivers to their farmlands to manually water their crops. But this is a lengthy and difficult process, and not much work can be done. Like Yuda Amagule, who draws water from the river manually to water his crops. The labor-intensive process means he can't afford to plow big fields, limiting his output. He grows vegetables even during the hot season to sustain productivity and an income through the year. If the drought persists, his own food security could be at risk.
These tomatoes are there, they are doing well, but we had been watering them frequently. That's why you see this channel. We have channeled the water here. This water actually goes on that side. We have diverted it on this way.
As climate change causes more extreme weather swings, the World Food Programme warns the crisis will likely drive more people into hunger. In neighboring Sudan, which has the largest area under irrigation in sub-Saharan Africa, with an estimated 1,700 hectares fully equipped, the number of people facing acute hunger is rising rapidly. Traditionally, farmers rely on diesel-powered pumps to channel water from the Nile to irrigate their fields. Since the Ukraine war broke out, diesel costs have shot through the roof. For those who could get their hands on the equipment, solar energy provides temporary relief.
الطاقة الشمسية طبعا أنا عايز الطاقة الشمسية بشوف أقل تكلفة من البابور من البوابير دي. لكن إنه أنت كيف بتتحسن؟ هل الدولة بقدر بوفر لكل مزارع حماية الطاقة الشمسية وبأقساط مريحة، وبعد ذلك يعتبر ده نوع من التشجيع. لكن دي ما موجودة، وما في مزارع نادر جدا يكون في مزارع عنده إمكانية يجيب لها طاقة شمسية لوحده عشان يركبه ويبدأ يشتغل هنا.
Water experts advise that governments need to support farmers with automated agriculture practices like greenhouses in order to control the environment that crops thrive in to improve yields. Crops grown in greenhouses are not impacted by climate changes like drought. But this is an expensive venture that many can't afford.
We should be able to move towards a direction where we are basically adopting our farming to the environment that we have. If we are able to cultivate in greenhouses, that would be the best, because there then you control everything. You are controlling water, you are controlling temperature, you are controlling air. You basically produce a crop scientifically.
The UN's Food and Agriculture Organization warned that the current rainy season, which runs through May, will be poor. Back in Madi Okolo in Uganda, government aid has not reached everyone. Most farmers will likely still face the desperate situation of failed harvests this planting season. For the few who have got the means, the crisis becomes an opportunity to earn a windfall. Iga Jamir was one of 15 farmers in this village who got a solar water pump from the government. His garden is near a water source where he could easily pump water from, one of the major reasons he got selected. While farmers who depend on rain to water their crops are just planting, Jamir's stock is hitting the market months earlier.
Remember, there's few people on the market because when the season starts, autumn season begins, everyone puts their oil in their houses. They sit back. So when you bring out your hose and then everything, you start farming, whatever you take to the market is bought expensively.
Other Ugandan farmers like Aphilium were not as lucky. He will continue waiting, not knowing whether there will be enough rains to water his crops as the family grinds through another dry season.